I had a breakthrough with my depression, and I've been leading up to this for the past 3 or so videos because I just haven't had the time or the energy to speak about it. And quite honestly, today I still don't really have the energy for it, just because what I discovered in myself, I feel like can help a lot of people, and I want to make sure that I express this properly. So I've been wanting to not actually do this yet to this video, just because I just want to make sure I really get it out all in the right way so people can understand it. But I'm just going to keep pushing it off more and more. So I decided to just do it, and this video is going to be a little bit all over the place. And I don't have any really plans on how I'm going to explain this, but I hope that I do an okay job and that at least a few people can be helped by this, I hope. But before we get into the video, just 2 things I want to address. One is, if this is the first time you're watching this video, what I'm going to say about depression and how I am like overcoming it or having this breakthrough with it, you might look at me, and especially with what I'm going to say, and think it's not possible that I can be that depressed if something like that can help me. But I suggest for you to go back and watch my older videos, look back at the beginning of this 30 days or even the videos before that, and you will see that my depression was very severe. It has been very severe my whole life. I'm 29. It started when I was 12. I only say it started when I was 12 because I have no memories before the age of 12. My point being is that I get a lot of comments, people saying, you are too pretty to be depressed, you can't be that depressed. Just all these different reasons why you don't get depression. They say to me, like, in the videos where I'm very depressed, people get it. And some of you get it all the time, but some people come onto certain videos where I'm holding myself a little bit better, and they're like, you're like putting down others, you're discrediting others who have real severe depression by complaining about your little things that don't matter. And like, you don't understand. I know exactly what you're talking about with severe depression. Anyways, I don't want to get too much into that. If you're not sure, I actually am really experiencing severe depression. Go back on my videos, watch them, and then come back and tell me if you think that that's not severe depression, because it is. And the other thing I want to say is a big thank you to the people who bought me a coffee. And I started doing the show. I had some people who bought me coffees beforehand, but I only started doing shout outs in the recent videos because I just hadn't been able to get myself together. And just now my depression is starting to recover a bit, so I am able to do a little bit more. And when you guys buy me a coffee, I don't necessarily say it in the next video. I say it in a video like this one where I'm intending to sit down and speak for a little bit longer, because I usually have to build myself up a little bit, like motivation and just getting myself together to go through a video like this. So thank you to Anastasia who bought me 3 coffees. You're so sweet. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And to Shane who bought me 14 coffees. I think that is the most coffees anyone has bought me this entire time. Thank you. You guys, I can't say how much I appreciate this financial support through you buying me coffees. It means a lot to me. And Keith, you bought me 11 coffees. That is so generous. I'm just blown away by everybody's generosity. It's amazing. Your generosity through your donations and your generosity through your continued support in the comments, and just how much you guys truly are supporting and caring for me. I'm blown away. Now, the breakthrough that I had, and a lot of you, I feel like, either knew this was coming or you have been trying to say this to me all along, is I think I am addicted to my depression. I think that my depression at this point has become a choice. And that realization that I may be addicted to sadness and I may be addicted to my depression has changed everything for me. And when I say addicted, I don't mean that I enjoy being depressed. I don't necessarily choose it consciously. It's more so a learned behavior. And I have so many things. I want to address something from a book that I read 2 or 3 years ago that changed my life. All these things that are coming back together, and it's all clicking for me. And it all started 3 or 4 days ago. It was a Thursday. Today's Monday. And I went to my psychologist, who I've seen for the second time now. And I had not really gotten anything out of it yet. I'm sure he will help me in the future, but as of now, there is nothing that he's really been able to assist me with. And he even said to me that he's never had a patient like me before, because he's never had someone with my level of depression and other issues that I have, but with the self-awareness that I do, and who has also already tried all the things. So the first appointment, I told him everything that I've done, and like, as you do in an appointment. And he was saying in our second appointment how he's never experienced a patient like this, because most of the things he would tell me to do or a patient to do, I had already done. All the awareness that needs to be made is already there. And this is kind of what I'm talking about. And so he said that this is, it's going to be a little bit different because he hasn't experienced this type of patient before. So it's a different situation for him too. And that almost kind of makes me feel a little bit hopeless, because I kind of already knew that. I mentioned it in some of my videos that I am very intelligent. I am very self-aware. I'm very knowledgeable, and I know a lot of information. I'm an intelligent person. Yet I'm still, or I'm not really right now, but I was still chronically depressed for my entire lifetime. So having someone confirm that, although he didn't say I was hopeless by any means, but it's just like, yeah, I know. It's kind of hard when you're like, hey, I've done CBT and DBT, and I've healed and I talk about this on my videos, I've healed my attachment styles, and this issue and that issue, and I've released my repressed emotions, and I've done all these things, yet I still remain depressed. And that's why it felt like I've all these things I've kind of mentioned in different parts of my 30 days videos, but I know not everyone who is watching this video has watched all my 30 days. And I recommend, if you are depressed and you want to recover from it, you watch it, because you can watch kind of my thought process and my progression. But it's kind of hard when you already know that I'm doing everything. I've done everything. So why am I still depressed? What else am I supposed to do at this point? That's when you reach I've reached so many rock bottoms in my life, but the thing about rock bottoms is that there's always a lower point. There can always be a lower point. It's your current rock bottom. My rock bottom at one point was here, and then a few years later, a rock bottom was here, and then a few years later was just constant lower rock bottoms, right? So anyway, so I reached this new lowest rock bottom in the past few months to 6 months, a year, whatever. And as I expressed in the beginning of the videos or the middle of the videos, is I don't know what to do anymore. Like, it was bad, because at least I had certain pieces of hope before. Maybe I can do this and this can help, and maybe I can heal this and this can help, and I can do this piece of thing and this thing I learned. But it's like I've done everything now, and the depression was still there, but worse if not. And what happened is I was with my therapist or psychologist on Thursday, and he said something to me that triggered this entire process. He said to me, I said to him that I started going to the gym and it's helped me a little bit. And he said, that's interesting. And I said something about how I felt a little bit happier when I went to the gym. And he was like, that's really interesting. And that stuck with me. That was the triggering thing that triggered all of this. That's the beginning of the spiral. So I left that appointment, and I walked to my car crying, and I was like, I'm hopeless, Well, no, I try to keep a positive attitude. Well, not positive. I try and keep a mindset of I can do this, even though I'm crying. But still, I get in my car and I think, well, okay, I feel a little bit better when I go to the gym. Why? Well, when I go to the gym, I have to listen to a little bit more upbeat music. And I have to kind of just be a little bit more positive. I kind of have to force myself to be. And I get into my car and I'm about to put on my music that I listen to that's pretty like sad music. Not depressing. Someone wouldn't listen to my category of music that I listen to and say that is sad music, because it's not actually sad music. It's just not uplifting music. Because I find uplifting music very uncomfortable to listen to, because it's very, there's a very far distance and contrast between where I am and that music, and it almost makes me feel worse to listen to this happy music and just think how horrible I feel. It just feels worse. So I decide, I say, I'm just gonna try, because I don't know what else to do now. Why don't I just try? Oh, because I was walking to my car and I was thinking, well, why am I always listening to sad music? Like, do I like being sad? And I was going through this thought process for the next few hours of just like, am I choosing this? Like, and you can be addicted to sadness, right? So anyways, there's this whole spiral, and I'm trying to make this video not be 2 hours long, but there's this whole different thought process I'm having, and I'm just introspection and ruminating, and I'm just thinking about my thought process and why am I doing it, and understanding how emotions work, and understanding how humans work and how the brain works. And it's just, okay, well, maybe let's just try listening to less sad music. And I tried listening to some less sad music, and it was pretty painful because it's such a far contrast from where I am. But I just persevered through it, and I got home from the appointment and I sat on my couch as I do, and I just I put some earphones in and listened to some, not like super like party music, but just like not sad music that I kind of usually listen to. And I sat there and I cried, as I usually do, about how depressed I am and how much pain I'm in, emotionally and spiritually, whatever. And I kept the upbeat music on, and I cried through it, and I just stayed like that all day. And I felt pretty bad and pretty horrible, but I felt like I could bring myself out of it for brief moments, because I was listening to the positive music instead of it. It's like, okay, so I'd be crying and sad and depressed, and I'd put on my sad music because it like comforts me, and I'm just pushing myself more and more and more into sadness and into depression. How do I expect to listen to sad music and then to listen to sad music and go further and further into my sadness and further into my depression, and just go deeper and deeper into that realm of emotions, and expect that to make me feel good? So I found that with staying, even though I was crying and sad and depressed and listening to a little bit heavier music, I was able to find these little brief moments of, okay, maybe it might be okay. Instead of, oh, woe is me, you know, like that type of depression, whatever, sadness, I don't know what word we want to call for this. And this is why I'm mentioning that you don't understand how severe my depression is, and this is the first time you're watching this, because you're probably looking like, oh, this girl's probably just sad and crying over a breakup, or she's just, you know, like, no, like it's severe depression, like severe. And I just stuck with this, and I started thinking, maybe I am addicted to sadness. I started searching about it on the internet, and there wasn't really much that I felt really impacted me or made a whole lot of sense, enough for me to really pursue it more searching. So I kind of stopped searching, and I just kept thinking about what I know. And I started thinking about this book. This is Evolve Your Brain by Joe Dispenza. And this book changed my life. This book was sent to me by God when I had my spiritual awakening 2.5 years ago, when my sister, who was my best friend, got cancer. And that was the catalyst so was all my lifetime suffering, but that was the main catalyst for my spiritual awakening. That is when God spoke to me, and that is when my life changed forever. And what happened is that I reached I don't even know how to put into words what I experienced when my sister got cancer. I thought she was going to die. She's healthy now. She's doing great now. And I was in a very, very, very terrifying place. I can't even, it was like it wasn't even on this world. It was the most terrifying thing I've ever experienced. And God somehow made me read this book. And this book changed my life. And I'm not necessarily saying that you should read this book, because this book is a heavy read. It's like 20, 30 hours to read it. It's really sciencey. really wordy, not all of it, but some of it. And it was kind of a hard read. But I was desperate and it was helping me. And by the first chunk of it, it's when it started to change my life, this first chunk. And this book got me out of the, I thought I was going to die. Like, I felt like I was dying myself. My sister was the one with cancer, but I thought I was dying. I don't even know how to explain it. My body was like shutting down because my brain, well, this is what this brain told me. My brain was like killing me. It was like killing my body. I don't know how to explain it. And this book essentially, and you can't summarize a book like this in a paragraph, but essentially this book introduced me to neurology, and it explained how our thoughts are created by us, and the more that you think a thought, the more that pathway, and this is just in really simple terms, the more that pathway it has stronger wiring, and the more you're going to think that way. So essentially it taught me that you have control you have control of your thoughts. Again, how I'm describing it does not credit what I learned from this book. I'm doing this book a disservice by the way I'm explaining it. But it made me realize, and I talked about this in my video on how I overcame my binge eating, because this technique, which I learned initially from the video, but I mean from this technique I learned from the book, but it's also just, it's spiritual, it's science, it's in psychology, it's in philosophy. It's just it's a one way to explain a known phenomenon across different populations of people. But I needed the neurology perspective because I hadn't been totally spiritual yet, and I needed like some more science, I guess. And where was I? This book is what taught me that who we are and who our brains are, or what our brains are not the same thing. And I talk about this a lot in my video about binge eating, because that is a big way in how I've overcome binge eating, and how I overcame my most severe OCD, and how I overcame limerence, and how I overcame so many things using this technique, yet somehow I couldn't use it for my depression. And what I was saying, so this is what I'm saying. This video is a little bit all over the place because I'm just talking. I'm just talking to you like I would if I was trying to talk to a friend. And it made me realize that our brain and our soul and who we are separate entities, and you can't just let your brain control your life, because you think you're your brain, but like, you are not your brain. Your brain is something that is developed over different incidents and experiences of your life. So that's kind of what that book taught me, is that if you stop thinking things and think something else, those will become your thoughts. You can just change your thoughts. Easier said than done. I first used this book to get over limerence because this is embarrassing if you guys even know what limerence is. It's about like love addiction, but I was obsessed with this man I never met. I was in love with him. Not real love, but I was obsessed with him, limerence. And I thought about him all the time. 85 to 90% of my thoughts were about this man. Yes, it is that bad. I never met him. We talked online for like a month, and this was like a year later, and I was in love with this man who I never talked to for a long time. Mental issues, limerence. A lot of people have that. There's nothing wrong with you if you have it. It's just it's a coping mechanism. Any sort of fantasy you have, any sort of fantasizing where you're like daydreaming about something or you're wanting something, that is a maladaptive coping mechanism, so you don't have to deal with your current circumstances and your current trauma and your current mindset. So I used what I learned in this book to overcome that by learning, this is going to sound so simple, all you have to do to stop thinking about a man that you're in love with and obsessed with is stop thinking about him. That is all you have to do. Now the problem is, in order to stop thinking a thought that you want to stop thinking, you have to have other thoughts. And that's where I learned I didn't have other thoughts. My thoughts were about this man. It was like, if I don't think about him, his name was Matthew. If I'm not thinking about Matthew, then what can I think about? I have nothing else to think about. It was all I thought about. And it was like, that's when I realized I had an issue. And it's like, you really have nothing else you can think about? And I was like, whoa, I have no life. I have no hobbies. I have no this. I have no that. My life revolves around this fantasy of this man. And that's kind of where it comes back. And that's going to tie into what I'm saying about how it's affected me with depression, is that I'm not able to think happy thoughts and be happy because my only thoughts that exist are negative. And I don't mean negative because I'm not a negative person. I'm actually a very positive person. I'm just a depressed positive person. But my thoughts are all sad. My baseline, if this is like happy, this is like the worst you can be. And baseline is like, I don't know, like sad. Like my baseline is below sad. Or I don't know what I'm trying to say. My baseline was not good. It was not neutral. It was not sad. It was like my baseline of experience was severely depressed, severely unhappy, severely sad. And again, this video is chaotic, but I just need you guys to just bear with me. I hope that you guys can put two and two together of what I'm trying to say. And then I was having these thoughts after my psychologist said what he said. And I was like, maybe I'm addicted to my emotions. And that's a very fair theory. And over the next day or two, I just refused. I said, no more sad music. None. Only upbeat music. And it was hard, but it helped because I started thinking, okay, not only was I only listening to sad music, I also started thinking no more sad thoughts. No more sad thoughts. And I've said this before about multiple things. Like, you don't wake up one day and want to go to the gym. You don't wake up one day and want to stop binge eating. You don't wake up one day and want to do these things. You have to just do them, and then that follows. So it's so obvious that I should have applied this to my mental health and stop sitting around for 27 years waiting for me to feel happy, to be happy. Like, I already understood this concept. That's, I think, doesn't make sense. Like, I knew this concept, but I just couldn't apply it, which is what I talk about, and you should watch if you haven't already. My day 20 video, I think it's my day 20. I'm sitting in the same spot as I am here and wearing like a tube top, like a beige tube top and a skirt. And I mentioned how you have this tool belt of tools, and I had all these different tools that I learned. I had all these things I knew how to help me with depression, but this one big missing piece was this one that I'm explaining today. And that big missing piece of controlling your thoughts and realizing that you're like addicted to your depression, and you have to just choose to not be depressed, and you have to choose to not engage with your negative or your sad thoughts, and you have to choose to only engage with neutral or happy thoughts. That piece on my tool belt alone, without those other pieces, wouldn't have helped me. And that's why it's something that I've heard so many people say, you just choose to be happy. Can't you just be happy? Can't you just choose? It's like, no, because I had so much trauma and I had so many things I needed to overcome. And I don't know how many times I'm going to apologize to you guys that this video is all over the place. And I knew that's why I've been putting off doing this video, because I knew that that's what it was going to end up being like. But I don't know. I just need to just tell you guys. I just need to get this, just do my best to explain it as much as I can. And I've known, because I understand psychology, and I just, my personal opinion, that things like ADHD and depression and anxiety and all these disorders are things that are developed when they're like chronic, not when they're situational, but when they're chronic, are things that are developed in your childhood because of the way your upbringing was and your situation. And I said that to my psychologist. I said, I've come to terms and I've learned enough about myself that I've healed all the trauma from my childhood. I've healed all that stuff. Yet I still feel this way. And I know that's because I grew up in an environment that caused me to have certain thinking patterns, like an overthink. I think most intelligent people, most analytical people, most people who ruminate, all of those people who have that type of intellect, not maybe they're really good in school, but they're like highly intelligent people, deep thinkers, are people who grew up in usually a difficult situation as a child because it forced them to have to think hard. And when you grow up as a child who is forced into having to figure out, like, why is this happening to me? Why is this my life? If I didn't have all these scenarios in my life that were making my childhood difficult for me, I would have been worried about like what toy I wanted, or what like a sports team, or my friends, or boys, or I would have been worried about school, or something that I should be focused on as a child, but my focus was more like, why is my life so difficult? Why is this happening to me? Why are my parents acting like this? Why is this my situation? Please, God, every night, can you please fix this? Please let me be in a happy situation. That's how I became an atheist, because I prayed to God every night to fix my problems that were so painful outside of me. And there was no resolution. And that's when I became an atheist later. I was like, well, if you can't help me, I turned around and come back to God. But so I learned that my depression and my this sadness, this base core level of unhappiness, even though I've resolved all the issues, is there because that's the only way. That's not how my brain works. I trained my brain. That's not what this book talks about, is training your brain, but I trained my brain from a young age. Not my own fault. It was many of us, it's not our fault that we were put into scenarios that we were put into. But I trained my own brain to only know depression. And that's why I think people who are depressed from a very young age, who only know depression, are like that, because they were in situations where they literally don't know what it's like to be not depressed. It's like that one video where I was saying how I was crying after I asked my doctor, is it true that there's people who aren't depressed? And she said it is. And it just like, I can't comprehend that, because I don't know what it's like to not be depressed. Some people have situational depression, have experienced not being depressed. People who have chronic lifelong depression don't know what it's like not be depressed. It's like you actually can't conceptualize that. Conceptualize happiness, conceptualize not being in pain, conceptualize the experience of not being depressed. It doesn't seem something that's possible. And this is also why people say things like alcoholism runs in families, and depression runs in families, and anxiety and OCD and all these mental health disorders run in families. Yes, sure, there's some epigenetics there, but the majority of it is it's nurture, not nature, right? Like it's not your genetics. If you took someone who was like your genetics are not what's causing you to do it. If your parents have depression and anxiety, or your parents have alcoholism, they have poor coping mechanisms. They have all these different thinking patterns and ways of being that impact you. They are teaching your subconscious from a young age on how to be, how to think, how to act. So you're not inheriting them like genetically. You're inheriting them because how you're being raised and how you think and how you learn in your developmental years shapes who you are for the rest of your entire life. And so I'm recognizing in the past, few months, after I've healed everything there is to be healed and released the repressed emotions, whatever, that the way I think and the way I am is because of I have only known that way of being. I've only known thinking in that mindset. And then I thought, well, I just have to change that, right? It's not that easy, because I'm 29 years old. I'm almost 30 in a couple of months. And my realm of, and the nuance of my emotions in the negative, sad category is huge. It's endless. The nuance and I'm using the word nuance because as like a deep thinker and an analytical person and stuff, the experience I'm able to have in my realm of sad, negative emotions is very large and complex and deep, and my realm of happy emotions is very limited. I don't have much experience with it. I haven't wired my brain to think that way. There's not a lot of nuance to it. I just kind of know, oh, okay, happiness, right? Like I don't know deeper levels of it. I don't know deeper levels of joy. I don't know more complexity of happiness. And there is joy in experience complexity of an emotion. And there can be, I don't know how to explain it, but there can be joy in experiencing painful emotions. So I have a more of an ability, and most severely depressed people do have more of an ability to experience emotions in that realm, because they have this many happy emotions to choose from, and this much complexity to them, and this much there's just not much there. But their realm of unhappy and sad painful emotions is huge and endless, and that feels like them. That is who they identified with. That is who I identified with. Because I don't identify with this much of happy that I know with. But what am I expecting? That one day all of a sudden the sadness bubble is going to go like this and the happiness bubble is going to go like this? So I'm training my brain right now to go tap into this, and to not tap into the sadness thing. And I just am choosing happiness, and I'm choosing to think different, just to think different thoughts. And it's hard because that's the whole thing a lot, like that this book is teaching. It's not like you're just like, your brain's like, would you like to feel happy or would you like to feel sad? Your brain goes, you feel sad. You feel sad for all these reasons. You have so much complexity to that thought. There's so much depth to that thought. It's a strong feeling. You've wired those pathways in your brain. It's this whole sadness emotion, and that is who you identify as a human who is alive. Now, if I choose my happiness thought, there's nothing in me going, hey, how about you choose happiness instead? There's no one offering me that in my brain. I'm having to go seek it. I'm having to go, what if I just tap into something? What if I can just find something to tap into, a little bit of happiness, and I just force myself to stay there, and the sadness pulls me back, and it pulls me back, and I say, I refuse. And when I say I refuse, that means I'm not letting my brain go that way. I'm not letting my brain think that thought. I'm not humoring, I'm not engaging with, I'm just back off, right? And I have I feel like I very, it feels like you lack like complexity and depth, because my range of emotions of happiness feels like this. It's very small. It's like, I don't really know how to explain that, but that's a lot of times a person who is addicted to sadness, and don't be mad at yourself if you're addicted to sadness. Like, you didn't choose it, your brain chose it. Your brain has put its pathways to think the way it does, to think sadness, to think unhappiness, and you can't just hope that one day all that is going to change. Like, you have to slowly rewire your brain path to thinking happier thoughts, to thinking more positive thoughts, and it sounds so simple and stupid and just ridiculous, and when I say it out loud, it's like, that just sounds silly, but this has been life-changing for me. And you guys don't know this about me because I don't really talk about it, just because I just don't want to. It's just kind of my own thing. I'm very, very, very big into manifesting. Manifesting is just a word for a law of the universe. Manifest, the universe will give you what you feel is already there, but that's what manifestation is. It's religious. It can be religious if you want to make it religious and look into like Neville Goddard, and it's just it's part of philosophy, and it's just part of everything. It's just the universe. It just is a law of the universe. You get what you are, and you can't wait until you get what you want to become what you want to be. You have to choose it from the inside first. What you are in the inside is what the outside reality reflects for you. And again, I keep manifestation out of this video because there's only a select people who like are into that type of stuff. But I've manifested very many things in my life. My mom, my sister, who I talk to the most, they know a lot about how important manifestation is to me. And my sister is the same way with manifestation. My mom is still learning. And they say to me whenever I go to them and, I'm depressed, as I have been for the past 20 some years, well, they go, like, you've manifested so many things, why can't you manifest happiness? And I say, I don't know how. Like, for some reason, I don't know how to manifest happiness. I just couldn't do it. I'd go on the internet and Google how to manifest happiness. I'd look on Reddit. I'd try and watch YouTube. There's not very many videos on how to manifest happiness. Most videos of manifestation are how to manifest an SP, which is like a partner, like a boyfriend, girlfriend. Special person is what SP means, or it's to manifest abundance and wealth. Or health, but there's not really I haven't been able to come across a lot about manifesting happiness, and I just couldn't figure it out. I'm like, why can you manifest so many other things, but you can, because once you understand how manifestation works, you can just manifest anything. But I couldn't do the happiness part because I just couldn't. I don't know why. And then it hit me that I couldn't manifest happiness because in order to manifest something, you just have to pretend you already have it. And that was my problem. How can I pretend I already have happiness if I don't know how to experience happiness? because I've trained my brain not to experience happiness. And that's when I started putting everything together and started using like brain retraining, which is just a word for choosing different thoughts, essentially, which is not easy to do. So it sounds simple, but it's hard to do. I mean, the concept is simple, but it's very difficult to actually put into action. But if you can, you'll get great results. So I started thinking, well, that's of course that would make sense. That's the law of the universe. And if you don't want to believe in the universe or God or whatever, it's also psychology, it's also science. So it's all there. I have to think happy thoughts in order to be happy. But I couldn't have done that I couldn't have done that if you gave me this tool, which probably this tool has been given to me many times, but I just wasn't ready for it. I couldn't have done it. This wouldn't have worked for me when I was depressed when I was 20, or when I was depressed when I was 17, or when I was depressed when I was 16, or when I was depressed when I was 25, because I had way too much trauma that needed to be resolved. I had so many repressed emotions that needed to be released, which if you are watching this far, please check out my video on how to release repressed emotions. It's completely life-changing. I had severe headaches for 7 years, and I shouldn't even say headaches plural, because it was one singular headache. I had no breaks from those headaches, except for one time when I had surgery, my breast augmentation, and I was on painkillers. That was the only time I didn't have my headache. And I did this thing that I teach in the video about how to release repressed emotions, and within months my headaches were gone. I no longer get headache. Well, I do get a headache once or twice a month, but I had a headache 24/7 all the time. It was destroying my life. And yeah, so I did all those things, release repressed emotions, and now I just have to choose to be happy. And it's hard because I don't have much to choose from, and brain wiring, my brain is the constant fight. My brain is constantly telling me to go negative thoughts. My brain is constantly telling me to go to sadness. My brain is constantly telling me to wallow in pity and sadness. And I have to choose over and 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 over again to choose a different thought. And I don't have many thoughts to choose from. I have this many happy thoughts to choose from. It's very difficult to reach these tiny little thoughts, and this is all you have of good thoughts. But over time, if I keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it, it'll get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, right? It's going to take a while for me to get that complexity to my happiness thoughts, but I'll live in this little small category. I'll live in this small thing of thoughts, if that means I don't have to be sad. And I know it'll grow too. And that's why overthinkers, I'm a huge overthinker. Overthinkers are unhappy because overthinkers just overthink all the time. And I think there is more complexity and more depth to suffering and sadness than there is to happiness. And that is the contrast and part of life, and that is a part of life, and that's okay. But at a certain point, you have to stop. Like for myself, I really identify as a very analytical, thinker. And I identify with that depth of my thought, and I like going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into a thought. But when you go so deep into a thought, you can start to go crazy because, especially when you get into metaphysics, there's just so much that you can think that you'll start to feel like insane. And then something I was going to say, but I shouldn't say that on YouTube. But I'm losing my track here. The video is almost 40 minutes long. My point being is I have completely done, I don't want to say like a 360, but I have had the most dramatic improvement in my mental health that I've ever had without outside sources, because sometimes I get really big jumps in my mental health because something like good happens, like there's like a guy, or I'm given like I got a good job, or I'm given like something from the external that kind of makes me feel good. But like there's nothing from the external that has made my life better. If anything, I've been actually struggling with some stuff, but I've never had this much of an improvement in my mental health and improvement in my way of my thinking, all because I'm choosing that I'm not allowing anymore those thoughts. I'm not going to sit there and listen to sad music all the time. I'm not going to engage in those thoughts. I'm going to push them away. I'm going to ignore them. I'm not going to acknowledge them. I'm just bye. And like I'm saying, this would not work if you have all this repressed emotions and all this repressed trauma, because pushing away your pain is going to is like, it's like stuffing it back, right? So that's actually unhealthy. And that's why I kept on engaging with my painful thoughts, because that's how I healed a lot of stuff, by going into the pain and going into the trauma was how I healed it. But there's a certain point when it's all healed, and you'll know when it's all healed, because I knew. It was quite obvious to me. I don't have those trauma pieces anymore, but I kept feeling the sadness of the traumas. I kept feeling the sadness of the pain and the sadness of the experiences and the attachment issues. Yet I didn't have any like intellectually, I didn't have any like attachment to them anymore. I'm over them. I don't bother me, but the sadness was still there. And that's because I kept giving into it. And then there's a certain point, and that is that at that point when you have to cut it off and be like, I've healed this now. It's time for it to go. And it's hard to really see that moment of when it's time for it to go. But I hope that maybe this video reaches somebody where you can see that for you, it's time for you to choose to not choose sadness. A lot of times people say choose happiness, and that just seems really too hard to do. But try to not choose sadness. Choose anything but sadness. Yeah, so I could keep talking because I just feel like I'm just not doing a good job at explaining what I'm trying to explain. And my sole purpose is hoping that this reaches somebody who it helps. And that's why I want to explain it so well, but there's only so much I can do. It's been almost an hour now, and I feel like a different person. I feel like I am so happy that I reached this understanding. And there is still going to be bad days, but those bad days I don't think are going to crush me like they used to. We'll see. I have good hope for myself. I will see you guys tomorrow.